What's that? Exactly. So it didn't.
How is
They need a volume. They need, we need some generation to add volume as well. So what's the thing on top of the rice in Japanese? Okay, so it's got a fit in it, right? Okay, so one should not just pop that in your mouth and chop it.
That's right.
Yes. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for assuming it wasn't me.
I don't know how. Figured she would have given you a dirty look.
Kids under the table.
It's getting to me, Jerry. I mean, I uploaded stuff this morning, so why I can't remember.
All right, bye all. Thanks for coming. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, Karen panic. We're going to start shortly, so finish up and then mask up.
Oh. So we're going to start in a few minutes. I see a couple people getting their QR code. I would like everybody in the room to please do that because that will also help us with the counts going forward. And we're giving a little bit of extra time for people to finish eating and put their masks back on for those who are uncomfortable being in a room with so many people without masks. So there you have it. Zen. Lining my talk. There you go. Exactly. All right. Okay. If we could go ahead and get started and get people to come in, sit down, put your masks back on, or if you're eating, finish up quickly and put your mask back on and stop talking. All right. Are we ready? Okay. So welcome to the Working Group Chairs Forum at IETF 116. Despite the fact that the email I sent out said IETF 115, I really did mean 116. This is can I do what? Wow, that was more effective than me.
I've never seen you that mad before.
All right. So in any event, this is the Working Group Chairs Forum at IETF 116. This is definitely not a group that I need to put the note well up there, but here we have it. It is the note well. Our meeting today is a little bit abbreviated because we wanted to give extra time for everybody to finish their lunches and put your masks back on. If you have any questions about any of this, ask your fellow working group chairs. This is our agenda for today. It's I just had a quick update where we're moving Greg Wood to the end instead of the beginning because he thought we were starting earlier than we were. So we're going to swap him out. And with that, Spencer, you ready? Always ready.
Sorry, I failed the height requirement. I'm Spencer Dawkins, and I was working with Mattis Engelbart, who has a repo with a adopted ABT core working group spec, and we started using labels beyond what the starter set is. And Mathis asked me if we were using the right ones, and I said, I don't know. So I asked on the working group chairs mailing list probably about a month ago, and it doesn't sound like there is a right list, which is fine. And then I wondered if we could give any help at all. So I'm not talking about writing a BCP or picking colors or really anything else. Just me trying to be helpful. So I was going to ask if your working group has one or more repos that have labels that work for you, then please send me a pointer via email. Thanks.
DKG?
Hi, just wanted to be clear. I'm not sure if everybody is following this specifically or is using GitHub specifically in this way. Labels you're talking about are the tags that can be assigned to issues or merge requests, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, just kind of giving people maybe more of a flavor of what I'm talking about. Some people who replied to the thread on the Working Group Chairs mailing list said, this is for future stuff. This is out of scope. Some stuff was, some of the stuff I am most likely to use is when an issue or pull request is likely to be discussed. So putting the ones down for the next IETF meeting or next virtual interim turns out to be helpful to me in knowing where to focus my attention. But yeah.
Jeff, so my easy feedback here is that these labels are for the people that actually pay attention to the issues, which is a very small subset of people. The reason why these aren't standardized is because what you're looking to do is optimize the workflow of people that are the consumers of them, and that's going to vary based on how people use their GitHubs. So as an example, an enhancement is a tag that we use in the B2B Yang one, because that's the thing that we decided means we're not doing this right now. And the audience is for the people that's actively working on the stuff. Enhancement may mean something else in a different working group.
Yeah.
So what I'd suggest is what you're really looking for here is a little bit less about the labels. Is in your repo, write up a little FAQ of how you expect people to actually interact with your hub.
That is excellent advice on a related theme. Thank you for that. The thing I was going to say was if we were able to point anyone at all towards any list at all of things that working group chairs felt were useful for their working groups, that would be a little less like letting 100 flowers bloom and maybe only 50. So that's, like I said, a non-working group chair asked me, and I thought I knew who. I thought to myself, I knew who to ask.
Hey, Lucas Pardew. I saw your email on the list, Spencer. Thanks for asking the question. I probably typed a few different replies a couple of times and deleted them because I didn't know if they would help. So especially with tone, I don't want to sound dismissive, but I'm one of the co-chairs of the Quick Working Group. We have multiple different GitHub repos underneath us, each with a different authorship team, all who have various levels of experience at the IETF, all who have different ways of working. It's all who actually seem to have different labels. It's easy to get label explosion and be super micromanagey with your own labels and things. And I think the only thing I can say is as advice is just pick the labels that help the workflow of the authors and editors. Something GitHub doesn't help with is that only some people with the right permissions can set the label. So if you forget or you're just a drive-by opening up some issues and it might be helpful to label them, you can't anyway. So there's possibly something we can do here, but I don't know, maybe it's just labeling something design or editorial issue or a normative issue or just a nice to have, and maybe all of the rest is up to the team to pick and choose themselves. Go and look at other examples. Don't look at a list that we're going to provide for you. Look at examples of other drafts that may be working in a similar way to how you would like to achieve things. Cheers.
Yeah. And thank you. And I was actually hoping somebody from the Quick Working Group would stand up. Thank you. Dave?
Dave Taylor, in your email, you just suggested, a catalog or something. You didn't say here. What are you thinking if you get a bunch of stuff as to how you might communicate out your work? Is this something that would go on the chair's wiki as ideas for working group chairs? Or do you have any thoughts as to what your trying to be helpful expected output might be?
So,
and I'm happy to send you what we're doing and learn from others, but what's the forum? So
yeah, I mean, so two things. My experience, which is not encyclopedic with GitHub, is that people in working groups that I participate in who use GitHub start a repo, as individuals, and the documents might or might not move out someplace else. So if they were, if people were thinking, and maybe this is the best guidance I could give, if people are thinking about what's useful to start using rather than rather than, I mean, if it's the same thing, you can call it anything you want, but if you call it this, more people will be likely to guess what you mean. So I'm like I say, my suggestion is let me see what I get and see if that's looks more useful for someone with responsibility to the working group or not. But the first person who asked me if there was a recommended list was not a working group chair. He was a document editor.
So in terms of brainstorming, since you asked for like unicast mails or whatever, I'll just say this now in the interest of brainstorming. Some working groups recommend people when they create drafts to say, clone, say, Martin's tools for generating the draft. Okay. And so if we're saying one useful place is, say, in your README file, talk about what the labels are, then maybe putting something there that's like resources for working group chairs to clone, whether it's in Martin's repository or something alongside of it that people can clone and edit or whatever, might be a good way to advertise it. So just a thought.
Thank you for that.
Anything else?
I appreciate the feedback. If anybody is really proud of their labels, people have sent them to the working group chairs mailing list already. So following up on that thread would be a legitimate thing to do too. But like I say, if I get stuff that looks useful, I'll report back, and if I don't, we'll all know. Thank you.
It's not even close for me. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do this. This is much more comfortable. So the original plan for today had been for us to talk a little bit about the new participants program here. It was just going to give a little bit of EMODIR update of what EMODIR is and how it's currently organized and some things that are coming down the path. And then Michelle Cotton, who has been working on the new participants program, was going to talk more about that. Unfortunately, at the last minute, she wasn't able to be here, so I'm going to cover both. I will also say that any mistakes here are all mine because I did not coordinate effectively with my co-chairs or co-coordinators. So with that, on the next slide. So the EMODIR it's been around for a little while. It's been reorganized and reformatted a couple different ways. It actually grew out of the original EDU team and the mentoring team that we had a number of years ago, and also some of related outreach type activities. And a lot of it was in particular like outreach in various regions. If you remember when we were doing, there were some regions that were doing things like IETF hubs and things like that. So that was, the idea was to collect all of these activities under a single umbrella so that they could be better coordinated. Not that EMODIR would do all of these things, but that this would sort of help with coordinating and making sure, because they're all sort of targeting the same kinds of audiences. And so that was the motivation for setting it up a number of years ago. And then of course the pandemic hit, and there's a lot of confusion and a lot of churn. And then the most recent set of turns is we are renaming it, but we decided to wait until after this this meeting, and that way we can rename it and we wouldn't mess up data tracker and things like that. But it's going to be renamed to the Education and Outreach Directorate after this IETF, but it'll be the same thing. The only thing we're doing is renaming it and moving the tooling over, but it'll be the same set of activities. So basically the mission of this directorate strives to enhance the productivity of the IETF, expand the diversity and inclusion of the IETF, all with the ultimate goal of writing better technical standards. We defined early on 3 sets of audiences. I'm going to focus mostly today on the new participants and potential and new participants, but I did want to call out the other audiences so people have an idea of how this is, the types of activities that would fall under here. Some of these activities are going pretty strongly. Some of them have really sort of fallen by the wayside, and it's up to the community to decide whether we want to go back and start, reimagining how some of these things could be done, or if we're happy with them continuing to stay sort of dormant. So the 3 audiences are potential and new participants to the IETF, the current IETF participants, and IETF leadership. So next slide. So basically, EMODIR is about the coordination of those doing those activities and not us actually doing those activities. And when I talk about some of these, like you'll recognize things that, Greg Wood, in his role in the LLC, has been doing a bunch of stuff. The guides program, a number of those activities there. We do currently have 3 coordinators. It's Greg Wood and Durav and myself. And Durav is new since the last IETF, and we deeply thank him for joining the team. And he's bringing a lot of new focus and energy, in particular to outreach. But at this point, we're sort of at the let's get the name change done part of this. If you were in London, he did do a side meeting in London specifically on outreach. So we do have a wiki. That wiki also points to the outreach wiki, which some work has been done since the last meeting. And we will have a side meeting on Friday. This one is going to be sort of focused on brainstorming what materials we need to bring in the next generation of IETF participants, as opposed to the kinds of things that we've done in the past. Next slide.
Okay.
There we go. So I wanted to highlight some of the types of activities that fall into the different categories for the 3 different types of audiences and talk a little bit about them. The working group chairs training, Greg has been here a number of times talking about the live training that's been provided. There was some done last year. There was some done a year or 2 before that. Some of you participated in the small focus group that he had to help guide that training, and that training was developed externally by professionals, and the LLC provided it. That's also evolving to be on-demand training, and Greg is going to talk about that a little bit at the end. And then there's the Working Group Chairs Forum, which is this. This is an informal activity that started out as training. It used to be like hour-long tutorials given in lunch specifically targeted at working group chairs, and then it evolved into a forum of this type where we talk about different issues. Sometimes we have training, sometimes we have, people speak about specific things. If you may recall, in London, we had the 2 new lawyers that are on staff come and introduce themselves and talk a little bit about that. The one thing I did want to say about the Working Group Chairs Forum is we would really love to have at least one more person helping to chair it, and any ideas on what topics that you guys think are important, because, the question, lunches are expensive and time is expensive and valuable. And so we need to think about whether this is how valuable this is to do continuing. So anybody that's interested in helping shepherd this forum forward, please come speak to us afterwards. A couple of people asked in the chat about the EMODIR. One of the things is that this shows up in the data tracker and in the meeting tools under EMODIR. We've talked about getting that sort of tweaked at a later date, but that's why it's showing up as EMODIR, because this activity currently falls under that set of activities. And the other thing that's been ongoing for leadership is the sort of some of the wiki and website improvements that in particular Greg has been working on. If you've looked at the chairs wiki, any suggestions or anything that comes into that, please speak to him about that. For current IETF participants, this is an area where I feel like we've really kind of gone pretty dormant. We're not doing a lot at the moment. We used to do a lot of technical tutorials. The IESG has coordinated more recently, some deep dives. And there's been some work on improving the process and tools documentation. If you've looked at the wiki and you've looked at any of the data tracker quick guides, and you're like, I need to do this one quick task. How do I do it? Maria Kunin has driven some effort to develop a number of quick guides that are being published. So those are the kinds of things that fall into that set of activities. And in this particular one, I think the current energy has sort of gone out of the room. And so it's sort of, do we have anybody who's interested in working in this space? That would be great. The next set of activities are the potential and new participant activities. And I've divided these into 2 categories. One is the outreach activities, which is looking externally and bringing people in. So it's the IETF in the region and those kinds of activities. At this stage, we're really just getting that activity restarted. I mean, Dhruv might want to come to the microphone a little bit later and talk a little bit more about what's planned there. But what we've got at this point is the beginnings of a wiki. The idea is to provide resources to people that are speaking externally about the IETF and encouraging people to come to the IETF, to provide them those resources, and also to provide a list of examples of where those kinds of activities are ongoing. And then the new participants program, and that was the primary part of where we were today. So for the new participants program, if you want to go to the next slide. The new participants program is probably, it's one of the strongest pieces I think we have at this point. Michelle Cotton is now our new participants ambassador. So she runs a small group of us that coordinate in the run-up to an IETF meeting, planning the activities for that coming IETF meeting. We did recently change the name because name changes are our thing to do, I guess. We changed our name from newcomers to new participants because the feeling was that a lot of people that are coming to the IETF for the first time are not necessarily like newcomers in the sense of people that are fresh out of college, but they're more like people that are new to the IETF, but they're not new to industry or not new to the technology space in general. And the new participants program does a few things. It does some stuff in advance, and then it also does some stuff at the IETF meeting. The stuff that's done in advance is there is a new participant mailing list, just like there's an attendees mailing list. And that mailing list it's being used a lot more proactively now, in addition to just reminding people of specific things. It's almost a weekly set of messages to the people that are registered as newcomers, giving them tidbits of information each time. Pointing them to tools they might want to learn about and that kind of thing. There's also been some informal virtual coffee breaks before the meeting that are just basically open door if somebody wants to come and join and ask any questions, and there might be one or two people that are there to ask those questions. And then, of course, again, ongoing web improvements. And then the next slide is the guides program. So these are the activities that happen during IETF week. We do still have the guides program, which is the formal mentoring program. I know a number of you have participated as guides. The current coordinators of that program are Wes and Paul and Reese. And I think that is moving, that is also pretty well founded. There's a lot of tooling to support it. And then during IETF week itself, there is the new participant overview, which is basically the former tutorial that was given on Sunday. It's still given on Sunday. It's a tutorial of all of the things. Later this week, I'm just going to send a link to the most recent version so you guys can get a look at it and see the kinds of stuff that we're telling new participants, and feel free to provide suggestions, especially suggestions that might make it a little bit shorter as opposed to a little bit longer, because over time it seems to have grown in size to be, we were sort of originally targeting like 45 minutes or so, and 15 minutes of questions, and now we're up to 55 slides. So you can imagine that does not quite fit in an hour. And then there's the quick connections. I know a number of you have participated in that. There's a new participant dinner, which is just for newcomers, new participants, that gives them an opportunity to mingle amongst themselves. And then we used to do a feedback session. What we have now is a new participant social hour, which is where we are gathering feedback. And we're looking at different ways to do that, to get both, anecdotal evidence, talking to people, and then also ultimately getting some survey data that gives us more data over time about how the new participants are interacting with the IETF. So the next slide is just some feedback that we've gotten from the new participant program, sort of anecdotally at this point. But I think it is, I think we've struggled a little bit over the years with the IETF image of being not a very welcoming place. And I do think, we don't have data to support this, but we have anecdotal evidence that is improving, that it is becoming a more welcoming environment for new participants to come into. I think that's critical for the future of the IETF. Also, the new participants are getting the message that they really kind of need to be prepared for sessions. And so that the part about reviewing the drafts is really important. Also, the observation has been made that they wish the agendas were posted earlier, which we all do. I wish I posted my own agendas earlier. We all wish everybody else's agendas were posted earlier. So those last few weeks are always a little bit chaotic. And the new participants would like a little bit more engagement between meetings. We've talked about trying to do some sort of virtual support, online support or virtual support for them between the meetings. And I didn't, like I said, Michelle was supposed to be here, so this particular set of bullets are from her. I'm not exactly sure what the improved remote participation experience was. I think I mean, there's always room to improve these things, but I think we do a pretty good job. So I think I need a little bit more information on exactly what that was about. And then the last slide, I think, how am I doing on time? Was sort of some where to next kinds of questions. Looking ahead, what kind of changes are needed to the program? I think in the last year or two, I think getting secretariat support, getting Michelle in place as the new participant ambassador to sort of keep us on a straight and narrow and getting things done has improved things a lot. But of course, there's always room for improvement. And so we're kind of interested in what your all's interactions with the new participants have been and what you think some improvements would be. And then what do you see missing in their onboarding information that would make them more successful? And with that, somebody's in the queue. So 3 people in the queue? I'm leaving. Okay, 3.
So this is a comment about the new participant program. Is it still defined as the first 5 meetings?
No, we actually did away with that definition, and now it's basically self-defined. We don't say it's 1 meeting or more than 1 meetings. It's like if you consider yourself a new participant, you're welcome to participate in the new participant program.
Okay. In talking to one of the new participants, she was attending it only the second time. She was of course missing the tag, which might be a choice that we decided to get away to show that she was a new participant. She was not even aware of the fact that some of the programs were still open to her. So she did not attend the newcomers meet and greet and did not know that she could even go for dinner or any of the other programs that were still open.
All right, that's useful to know. We'll have to look at our messaging and see. But the intent is that you define yourself as a new participant. If you feel like you still could benefit from the programs, then you are welcome to join the programs. I don't know, and I don't know if anybody from the Secretariat is here. I don't know if the tags are self-appointed, or whether they end up on their. I don't know if people do they get their own tags for new? Oh yeah, because Rich is wearing one.
I know. They hand them out and they say you don't have to wear it if you don't want to.
Okay,
And
they do hand it
them
out. Okay.
Based on people who checked new attendee and are on the list.
Okay, great. And just as has nothing to do with people in the queue, I don't know, Greg, if you're in the room yet. I don't want to say that. Okay, I wasn't sure if I saw him in the back. So go ahead. Next in queue.
Hey, Shivan Sahib. I just wanted to say that I found the quick connections event to be extremely useful, both for myself and people seem to like it as well. So yeah, I mean, let's continue doing that and making sure that more and more people hear about it. So yeah, just a +1 for that. The other thing was that I chair a research group along with Chris Wood and Sarah, and we often try to get folks who have never been to an IETF meeting to come and present. And this is useful for what we're trying to do, but one consistent feedback that we received is that the fact that the agenda or the overall agenda for the IETF is only published like 20 days before the meeting makes it really hard for them to figure out, I mean, not only travel, but the fact that when they have to wake up or how they have to schedule this. as part of their overall week, like that makes it extremely hard. And we've had like several people drop out because of the fact that, they can't do that on such short notice. I don't know if there's anything that, we can do here, but that's some feedback that we've received.
Right. Yeah, I think the overall agenda is not something, I think, agenda scheduling is really, really,
Right.
really hard.
Totally,
So, for the main agenda for the ISG, for the working groups putting their own agendas up, I think we could probably all do a little better, and I know I could. So,
Thanks.
note to self.
Hi, Dhruv here. Just wanted to mention that the wiki page for outreach I've put in the chat, and I will send out a mail on the mailing list as well, maybe after the side meeting. I was hoping to get more feedback in the side meeting about how we structure the various type of outreach that we do and some examples of the recent outreach. So within this community, if folks are aware of how we can improve that, please reach out to me, give me feedback, and this is our wiki, not my wiki. Thank you.
Right. One other thing I didn't really emphasize that, for folks that go all the way back to EduTeam days is that the EMODIR is meant to be open, that anybody, it's an open mailing list, and we didn't do a very good job between London and this meeting, but the idea is that we have open meetings that people can participate in. My feeling being that if we don't open it up, then we can't get new people in to help us, and so we can't complain about not having new people in. So it's not a selective small group of people. Feel free to join. But anyway, next, Jeff.
Yep, Jeff has. So a thing that I've gotten is sort of side conversations this week that was sort of unexpected is there are people that, much like we have our, how we used to do the newcomers event where all the chairs would just hang around tables and eventually get swarmed by people that are interested, and we don't do that anymore. People are sort of looking for a flavor of office hours. It's like, I want to chat with somebody about your topic and have sort of a gathering space for this sort of thing. And we're all very busy through the course of the week. I don't know how we could actually fit something like this in, but there seems to be a need for it.
Yeah, it seems to me that there are more and more office hours being offered, but they're generally at the area level, not at the working group level. But that is an interesting point. There was a lot of discussion about the one you're talking about was the newcomers meet and greet, which used to be basically the big party it was sort of like the social before the social. And the frustration at the time was it was a social before the social for all the leadership to get together and greet people they haven't seen in the last several months. And so that was why the feeling was Quick Connections was more targeted to new participants. But that would be excellent feedback for somebody to take to the leadership.
Hi, Andrew Alston, Routing AD. So at 115, I had quite a number of interactions with newcomers, and I was getting a lot of kind of process questions and the rest of it. So this time around, I decided to show up at the new participants dinner and see if there were similar questions being asked. And I found it really, really useful to be there because there was a lot of good interaction and a lot of process questions, a lot of questions about how things work kind of from beginning to end, etc. And the impression that I got from that is that interaction with chairs and ADs, etc., does seem to be something that they appreciate and they do have questions, etc. And while the participants' dinners, obviously they're mixing amongst themselves, I think a forum where you've got a whole bunch of ADs or working group chairs or whatever, and them as a kind of once-off meeting may be worth thinking about doing, because I certainly found that I got a lot of questions there that were easier to answer to a whole table of people where getting the same thing than one-on-one in the corridors. But that's just an impression.
Well, and this is just me brainstorming here, but perhaps if we did something that wasn't on that first day when everybody's seeing each other, then you'd be past the initial greeting your old friends and you'd be more willing to spend time with, like if you opened up the dinner a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. It's
okay.
Just
So who's next?
Sorry, if I can just reply briefly to this topic, Paul Vartus. We do now have the hackathon that actually starts on Saturday. And so that's where people usually catch up after not seeing each other for months. So I think in a way, trying to go back to the tables of the various areas or topics and introducing people, I think would work better this time than it worked before we had a hackathon.
That's a good observation. Yeah. Go ahead, Margaret.
Margaret Cohen from Painless Security. I think that one of the problems with newcomers is, we do train them in the process and we try to go, yay, we're so happy you're here. But it's very hard to engage in ongoing working groups. It can be very hard to figure out what the group is even doing right now, because the charters are like from 2 years ago and there's milestones that have already passed. It's not obvious what the current work is. It's like a list of documents, but you don't know really what the status of any of those documents is beyond one big, like it's individual or it's working group, like fence. And I wonder if I don't know what the right answer is, but I don't feel like any amount of social stuff is going to help people engage in the working groups. And I've been in other organizations where, and I'm not suggesting we move to this model, but where like there's actual membership in the group, and now that you're here, you're going to vote. And they usually actually have ways of bringing people up to date in the group. Like when they join, people meet with them and help them understand what's going on. And I wonder if there's anything we could do for that. Like forget a social, but maybe when people come in and they're going to join certain working groups, we could, I don't know whether it will be the chairs or somebody else, but actually bring them up to speed on those particular working groups, because I think it's very hard for people to engage. They end up sitting in meeting after meeting where they don't understand what's going on. They're in jokes.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to engage here compared to the other organizations that I've been to. So,
yeah, I think one of the things is that, obviously there's different working groups at different levels of maturity. They're at different points in their life cycle. So, I also think that there are new participants who come here specifically to do something. And then there's new participants who come here to be, to contribute to the IETF, and they don't know what they're doing. And I don't know where they want to be or what they want to engage with. And I think those are two different sets of people that have different needs. But yes, I know we could do a better job of onboarding. I'm just not sure we need great ideas for people to think about, I suppose. Bob, go ahead.
Hi, Bob Hinden. So I'm just trying not to make this to be a rant, but I found that those newcomers leadership things before the social were extremely useful and productive. And I was very disappointed when they stopped. So I would strongly encourage whoever has control over this to put it back the way it was. The value of these face-to-face meetings is the networking you can do, and being able to, for me to be able to talk to other chairs, the ADs and newcomers at the same time was really productive. And I think it was a net loss to stop that activity.
Okay. Take that.
Daniel Kahn Gilmore.
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to reinforce what Paul said about the hackathon. I think the hackathon is an incredibly useful opportunity. And if you're a working group chair and you are not showing up for the hackathon, you are really missing out. The hackathon is a place that we can help bring people in. You can talk to people who are in related areas and interest them in the work that's going on in your working group. You just need to show up and say, I'm here for this. And even if all you're going to do is come to the hackathon and work on, massaging the drafts that you've got going through your working group, it's an opportunity for you to meet other people that are interested and to introduce new people to your topic area and bring them in. And we should not only be attending the hackathon as chairs, we should be mentioning it on the mailing lists that we are active on and say, we will be here, we will be doing that. Like, that's the place where you can have those conversations that people are talking about.
Okay. Go ahead.
My name is Donald Eastlake, Future Way. I wanted to second the hackathon thing, but the thing I wanted to mention was that people should look at RFC 4144 it talks about joining organizations and how to, and engage with them and stuff like that.
Okay. Do you want to bring up Greg's slides on?
Hi, Pete Resnick. So to Margaret, I think the guides program actually is a good entry point for that. And I mentioned in the chat room, I would love it if the guides program didn't make me have to volunteer each time, because if I'm here, I'll be a guide, that's fine. And I'm pretty sure other people would default into it if they were willing to be in the program. And having more of us as chairs and experienced folks, I happened to be paired up last meeting with a mentee or 2 meetings ago, and it worked out great because we happened to be in the same area, and he was right on coming to meetings and getting involved in those particular things. I could keep him up to date on how to get involved in the specific groups he wanted. And if there aren't enough guides in a broad enough set of areas, that makes it hard to match people up who can be that introducer. And I think that's a little easier than a sort of a formal introduction to the group thing. And just to comment on Bob's thing, although I was okay with that sort of broad chairs and newcomers together, it did tend to exclude newcomers from certain conversations because we would get all excited about stuff. The speed dating kind of thing, if that could be expanded a little to have a little free time after the speed dating bit, to make it a little more open socialization, that might bring back the essence of what Bob is looking for without bringing back the getting into a corner and talking to chairs and ADs only.
Right. Next. I don't know which one of you said, do you want to, Alexander?
I'm Alexander, I was first. In the context of onboarding new participants, an idea I suggest we explore is to make a list of low-hanging fruits issues which are beginner-friendly, such as maybe proofreading some text, redrawing some flowcharts in some markup language, and so on. So the idea is to have more experienced people think of what would be an easy task, because a newcomer may not yet be experienced enough to see whether they are a good fit for a problem or not.
Yeah, I think you could probably generalize that to ask working group chairs to think about things that you might need help with that would be appropriate for newcomers, and put those forward. Robert?
Robert Sparks. So since the working group chairs have a very high degree of overlap with people that are participating in the guides program as guides, I really encourage you to capture any frustration you have with the whole experience, like what Pete just mentioned, as issues, feature requests in the repository for the guides tool. That tool is also quite small. It's easy to understand, and it would be very easy to contribute to. And since you're the people that are feeling the pain, jump in and make it do what you want.
Okay. So with that, I think this has been helpful. I'd like to remind everybody that well, first of all, Greg, did you make it in? So to wrap up this last one, if there are anybody that's interested in helping with Working Group Chairs Forum, please contact us. I'm just going to put Greg's 2 slides up here, and you guys can look at them later, and then we will vacate the room. The first thing was the IETF chairs training. He gave us a number of updates on it last year, and you can see the number of registrations, and the on-demand classes are coming soon. The next slide is about the wiki migration, and the bottom line is track is going away very soon now, and everybody should know this, and I'm sure Greg would have had more useful things to say about it, but there you have it. I'm assuming, Robert, this is you from the last time. You're not new in the queue, right?
That's all.
Okay, just double checking. So on that note, we are 1 minute over. If everybody could take your lunches and leave, and keep the room clean. And Well, I mean, if you're in here, you can stay, but
You didn't expect to talk for the whole time?